All my days, they never end. All the weeks gone in a flash. Time, she's taking me down like a weapon. She's like a weapon on. All my days, I let it go. Now I knock on heaven's door. Time, she's taking me down like a weapon. She's like a weapon on.
Pressure makes the soul a diamond, but all I see is whining in this world where the pain it is a frame of mind. And yet we wash away the sand that we should draw the line in. Then we leave behind the people who are undecided. And can you feel it in the air? And I don't mean the climate. Compare the walking dead to boyos when their hearts are shining. And maybe there will be a time when we are undivided, but history is like a wave and we must learn to ride it. Though everybody's looking down, there's a new horizon. Though everybody's lost in deceit and compromising, I'm here to tell you that belief is on the up and rising. And though they tell you that it's lost, man, they cannot hide it. There are people on the streets screaming fuck the tyrants. There are people on the internet revealing lies, and you were thinking you're alone and you're just surviving, while all of them will put their life on the line for you.
All my days, they never end. All the weeks gone in a flash. Time, she's taking me down like a weapon. She's like a weapon on. All my days, I let it go. Now I knock on heaven's door. Time, she's taking me down like a weapon. She's like a weapon on.
Pressure makes the mind of stone. Adrenochrome flows through my blood, but when I feel it, man, it's fucking cold. I look around and see the demon sitting on the throne, and they are screaming at me, heaven is a waste of hope. They tell me play the game and that's the way you'll learn to grow. They told me yesterday's a memory you will never own, but I'm infected with an energy that's feeling gold. Then I am calling on the spirit when I feel alone, but I need evidence. So I'm up in heaven shaking at the door, screaming at the Lord, what do you expect? Then God, I'm pleading on my knees, I don't mean disrespect, but why was I created with the weight of intellect? Well, they call it a disease that everyone will get. They call us parasites on the world that we infect. And though they say the day will come when we conquer death, who will bring the message that we are already blessed?
All my days, they never end. All the weeks gone in a flash. Time, she's taking me down like a weapon. She's like a weapon on. All my days, I let it go. Now I knock on heaven's door. Time, she's taking me down like a weapon. She's like a weapon on.
You said that starving doesn't create art, that it creates many things, but mainly it creates time.
Oh yeah, well, hey, that's very basic. But you know, if you work an 8-hour job, you're gonna get 55 cents an hour. You're gonna get it. If you stay home, you're not gonna get any money. You're gonna have time to write things down on paper. guess I was one of those rarities of our modern times who did starve for his art. I really starved, to have a 24-hour day unintruded upon by other people. I gave up food, I gave up everything just to, I was a nut, I was dedicated. But you see, the problem is you can be a dedicated nut and not be able to do it. Dedication without talent is useless. Dedication alone is not enough. You can starve and want to do it, and how many do that? They starve in the gutters and they don't make it.
But you knew you had talent.
They all think they have. How do you know that you're the one? You don't know. It's a shot in the dark. You take it, or you become a normal, civilized person from 8 to 5.
It ought to be changed. This is it. So you don't need to do anything at all. At this now moment in which I'm talking, you're listening, is eternal. The difficulty about explaining that is that you mustn't try not to do anything, because that's doing something. And how to explain that? Because there's nothing to explain. It is the way it is. And if you understand that, it will automatically wake you up.
pinnacle of my life, the mirror of my desires, and all I want is you.
What would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life? Well, it's so amazing. As a result of our kind of educational system, crowds of students say, well, we'd like to be painters, we'd like to be poets, we'd like to be writers, but as everybody knows, you can't earn any money that way. When we finally got down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that. And forget the money. Because if you say that getting the money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things you don't like doing in order to go on living, that is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. Better to have a short life that is full of what you like doing than a long life spent in a miserable way. And after all, if you do really like what you're doing, it doesn't matter what it is, you can eventually turn it, you can eventually become a master of it. The only way to become a master of something is to be really with it. Therefore, it's so important to consider this question: what do I desire? Well, when we answer that question in a naive way, what we want is to control everything, to create girls that don't grow old, apples that don't rot, clothes that never wear out, conveyances that get from one place to another instantly so we don't have to wait, power available to do anything that you could conceive and do it just instantly like that, to get this funny technological omnipotence. But if you take time out to think about that and really go into it with your full strength of imagination and find out whether that's where you want to be, you will soon see that's not what you want. Because the moment you have a situation where you are really in control of things, that is to say, in which the future is almost completely predictable, you will see, as I said last night, that a completely predictable future is already the past. You've had it. That's not what you want. You want a surprise. You don't know what that's going to be, because obviously it wouldn't be a surprise.
Had an experience. I can't prove it, I can't even explain it, but everything that I know as a human being, everything that I am tells me that it was real. I was given something wonderful, something that changed me forever, a vision of the universe that tells us undeniably how tiny, insignificant, and how rare and precious we all are. A vision that tells us that we belong to something that is greater than ourselves, that we are not, none of us are alone.
You already have it. But of course, it's up to you. It's your privilege to pretend that you don't. That's your game. That's your life game. That's what makes you think you're an ego. And when you want to wake up, you will. Just like that. If you're not awake, it shows you don't want to. You're still playing the hide part of the game. You're still, as it were, the self, pretending it's not the self. That's what you want to do.
Continues to be my wish.
So you see, in that way too, you're already there. When you understand this, a funny thing happens.
Everything I am tells me that it was real. I was given something wonderful, something that changed me forever. A vision of the universe that tells us undeniably how tiny and insignificant and how rare and precious we all are.
And some people misinterpret it. You will discover as this happens that the distinction between voluntary and involuntary behavior disappears. You will realize that what you describe as things under your own will feel exactly the same as things going on outside you. You watch other people moving and you know you're doing that. Just like you're breathing or circulating your blood. Most people think when they open their eyes and look around that what they are seeing is outside. It seems, doesn't it, that you are behind your eyes, and that behind the eyes there is a blank. You can't see at all. Turn around and you see something else in front of you. But behind the eyes there seems to be something that has no color. It isn't dark, it isn't light, it's just, it's there from a tactile standpoint. You can feel it with your fingers, although you don't get inside it. But what is that behind your eyes, you see? Well, actually, when you look out there and see all these people and things sitting around, that's how it feels inside your head. The color of this room is back here in the nervous system, where the optical nerves are at the back of the head. It's in there. It's what you're experiencing. What you see out here is a neurological experience. Now, if that hits you, and you feel sensuously that that's so, you may think that then therefore, the external world is all inside my skull. But you've got to correct that with the thought that your skull is also in the external world. So you suddenly begin to feel, well, wow, what a kind of a situation is this? It's inside me, and I'm inside it, and it's inside me, and I'm inside it. But that's the way it is. This is what you could call transaction, rather than interaction, between the individual and the world. Just like, for example, in buying and selling, there cannot be an act of buying unless there's simultaneously an act of selling, and vice versa. So the relationship between the organism and the environment is transactional. The environment grows the organism, and in turn the organism creates the environment. The organism turns the sun into light, but it requires there to be an environment containing a sun for there to be an organism at all. And the answer to it is simply, they're all one process. It isn't that organisms by chance came into this world. Put it rather that this world is the sort of environment which grows organisms. It was that way from the beginning. Just in the same way, the organisms may in time have arrived in the scene or out of the scene later than the beginning of the scene. But from the moment it went bang in the beginning, that's the way it started. Organisms like us sitting here, were involved with it. You see, look here, let's take the propagation of an electric current. I can have an electric current running through a wire that goes all the way around the Earth. And here we have our power source. Here we have a switch. All right. Here's the positive pole. Here's the negative pole. Now, before that switch closes, the current doesn't exactly behave like water in a pipe. There isn't current here waiting to jump the gap as soon as the switch is closed. The current doesn't even start until the switch is closed from the positive pole. It never starts unless the point of arrival is there. Now, it'll take an interval for that current to get going, and circuit sort of going all the way around the Earth. It's a long run. But the finishing point has to be closed before it will even start from the beginning. In a similar way, although in the development of any physical system, there may be billions of years between the creation of the most primitive form of energy and then the arrival of intelligent life. That billions of years is just the same thing as the trip of the current around the wire. It takes a little time. It's already implied. It takes time for an acorn to turn into an oak, but the oak is already implied in the acorn. And so in any lump of rock floating about in space, there is implicit human intelligence. Sense has been rigged, you see, so that we feel strangers and aliens in this world, and this is terribly plausible, simply because it's what we're used to. That's the only reason. But when you really start questioning this, say, is that the way I have to assume life is? I know everybody does, but does that make it true? It doesn't necessarily. It ain't necessary. I think, awakening really involves is a re-examination of our common sense. We've got all sorts of ideas built into us which seem unquestioned, obvious. And our speech reflects them. The commonest phrases. Face the facts as if they were outside you. As if life was something you simply encountered as a foreigner. Face the facts. For example, people used to believe that the people who lived in the Antipodes would fall off. And that was scary. But then when somebody sailed around the world, and we all got used to it, and now we travel around in jet planes and everything, we have no problem about feeling that the Earth is globular. None whatever. We got used to it. So in the same way, Einstein's relativity theories, the curvature of the propagation of light, that began to bother people when Einstein started talking like that. But now we're all used to it. Well, in a few years, it will be a matter of common sense to very many people that they're one with the universe. It'll be so simple. And then maybe, if that happens, we shall be in a position to handle our technology with more sense. so then as you question this basic assumption that underlies our culture, you find you get a new kind of common sense. It becomes absolutely obvious to you that you are continuous with the universe.